Well, he attack me. But Jaden Chase, they have to make the fans them know what really are going on.
Up move nation. Now welcome to the channel. Your man Jaden Chase. Another one that we're gonna bring on another reasoning upon the topic of current affairs. So if you're new to the channel, just a pass through, but you find the reason insightful, well, I'm suggesting to you that you click the subscribe icon and then put a like on the video. Now let's get right into the reasoning. Now nation, Holness, Prime Minister Andrew Holness has just confirmed that there will be new vax policies put in place for the Jamaican island. And that piece of legislation is slated to be put in effect as soon as the government completes its public education campaign this month. Now, Holness classified his statements as a warning, and he says this is in light of several influential groups like the private sector organization, scores of business organizations, and the fact that they have started to either implement their own or push for mandates. May I make you hear from Holness himself and then continue the reasoning. Look and listen.
If you don't vaccinate, you can't go on the farm work program. And I don't hear one man a quarrel with Mr. Biden about that. Not one man raised them voice and a quarrel with Mr. Biden about that. But when we say here to protect our own economic interests, vaccinate, everybody a quarrel. The question that arises now is for those of you who take the vaccine, shouldn't you go back to normal while the people who don't take the vaccine then will stay under restriction? That is what is coming out now in the society. And then there are other persons who are saying, well, if my business is under restriction, shouldn't it be that if my business gets vaccinated, shouldn't we be able to return to normal? And shouldn't it be the case that to protect my business, I should ask my employees to get vaccinated? So that is the debate now that is taking place in the society. Why should the vaccinated wait on the unvaccinated to return to normal? It is a question that has to be answered. Should the people who are hesitant about vaccination hold up the return to normalcy of the entire country? Isn't that a legitimate question? And is it fair that some people who go take the vaccination, they still have to remain under restrictions, encouraging those who haven't taken it and them reluctant and say no? At some point, we have to move forward. Yes. And the way to move forward is, if you say it is your freedom and your right, then it's simple. You must bear the consequences of your freedom and your right not to take the vaccine. As the people who have used their freedom and their right to take the vaccines, they are expecting to get the benefit of vaccination. So we are eventually moving into that space where the numbers of persons vaccinated will outnumber those who are not vaccinated. Because in as much as you hear the naysayers and the unvaccinated preaching about them not take it and is this and is that and all the other issues you hear, people quietly, little by little, slowly by slowly, one by one, go into the vaccination sites and getting their vaccination. And I would say that by November, we will reach 1 million doses. And then after that, the numbers are going to increase gradually. When we pass the 50% mark, then there will be no question about the need for having a vaccine option. Some people want to call it mandate. I'm not mandating and forcing anybody. If you don't want to take it, it's your business. but don't expect the rest of the society to bear the consequence of your hesitancy. And we are bearing the consequences of the hesitancy all the time. Because when somebody gets ill with COVID, we have to take the hospital beds that are there for people who need to do their elective surgery and other treatments. We have to take those beds away to treat COVID. When we return to normal, that won't happen again. So if you get COVID, you will be treated like any other patient and not specially. So we are moving into that space. But I have to come to you and explain it to you. And I have to reason with you so that you understand that the government isn't holding down anybody, which is what some people would want you to think. We're not holding down anybody and putting needle in your arm. That's not the case. Everybody in Jamaica is free. We take freedom as a priority in this country. But freedom comes with responsibility. You're free to do nonsense, but your nonsense should not affect the people who have used their freedom wisely. And that's what it comes down to. So if you believe that the vaccine is some kind of new world order, apocalyptic, destructive force, that's your business, you believe that. But don't affect the farm worker who believes that the vaccine is his ticket to economic progress and prosperity. So what that means is that if you don't...
In defense to those statements made by the Prime Minister Holness himself, the Prime Minister said he's also aware that a significant percentage of the population is still hesitant about taking the vax, and said that the government is anticipating some backlash to come from the new vax policy. Holness said that it is not the government's intention to discard unvaxxed residents, but rather to strike a balance in society. Which balance? It has been already reported that almost 80% of the Jamaican population has received their first dose and have been stuck for many weeks as they are waiting to receive second dose of the brand vax that they have taken, because there were suggestions being made from some people about mixed vax. No, that cannot be done. While it has been done in other jurisdictions, in other places of the world, that was for their particular situation, and Jamaica cannot do that. So if some people have taken, let's say, Pfizer, them have to wait upon the second dose from said brand. In addition to this statement, Holness also pointed to the fact that in the past, vax have saved societies from being destroyed, and now the country is at a point where Big C has impacted the way of life. And I will say this, the way of life has been impacted, but majority of the disadvantages and the effects felt by Big C-19 is from policies put in place by governments. Now, Holness stated that it should be understood that if citizens don't take the vax, the country will not return to normal. We have heard Guyana stating that regardless of what takes place, the Caribbean sector has to return to normal, because one country's concern for what is taking place worldwide will not stop international countries from reopening. See it? Holness talks about the farm work program. Regardless of the Big C and what is taking place worldwide, we still have workers being requested by international countries that they need them here. As a matter of fact, farm workers are classified as essential workers in Canada. It's just like how police, soldiers, doctors, nurses, and certain other individuals are classified as essential workers in Jamaica. In Canada, farm workers are classified as essential workers, meaning them need produce to sustain them country, and them know say the workers who will facilitate that are essential to their countries moving forward. Despite the Holness I talk about, he refused to acknowledge that fact, that if the rest of the world reopens, him cannot force the Jamaican country to keep confined to restrictions put in place by his government. And the United Nations would stand to that. That is why he stated that him couldn't just close the borders, even if everybody in the country that called for that. The same powers that compel them to keep the country open is the same powers who will tell them, say, watching all restrictions must be relaxed. In the UK, they have pointed out that since the vax mandate has been put in place, or a version of that has been put in place in the UK, half of the UK's workforce has disappeared. Now think about Jamaica. It's already hard to get jobs out here. And with the few we already have them, sectors like healthcare, nurses. If half of the nurses them decide to say, oh, nobody force me to do that with my body and leave, what happen to the healthcare sector? The police them. If half of the police them decide to say, no want nobody force me, me go leave, what happen to security? Same thing for JDF. Because it is new policy is now looked at as an exit strategy. Remember, soldiers and police sign contracts that say them have to do this for a certain amount of years. If this new policy is put into effect and it say, what you know, it's either you do this or you're out, this can be looked at as an exit strategy for certain officers, certain soldiers, and they might just choose to say, you know what, we could leave them on them situation alone. And it's almost like Holness is saying that people are paying the price for choosing freedom and rights. Listen to me. In all countries across the world, whether you're black, white, or brown, we as a people, all races, had to unite and push for certain rights. I don't feel like it's right for a leader, so-called leader of the people, if you forward out and I tell them, see them, for put them rights, them basic rights, to the side for the greater good. No. People put their lives down for the establishment of these so-called rights. Talk to me in the comment section. Vice the one called Jaden Chase, the dancehall correspondent and the God's representative. I say, remind you know, if you're new to the channel, new to the movement, just a pass through, but you like the reason, of course, you like the point of view. Well, I'm suggesting to you that you click the subscribe icon, then the bell icon, and put it on all. And until reason again, my sentiments for you and yours are going to live, love, and prosper. Stay tuned.